Welcome to a guide on how to play Sobek at a master level. To get us started, let's go over some tips and tricks with him. Sobek is a fairly simple character, but there are some tricks with him. First on this list is how to pluck around walls. When you aim your cursor at the wall, you face dive into it, as you should. But if you come at the wall at an angle, your character will use the wall and slide around it. This is really good for line abilities like Achilles ult, or in this case Sobek pluck. Try it out a few times until you get the hang of it. Then you'll be able to pluck enemies that are slightly around corners. This next trick also involves his pluck. Whenever you connect to a target with your pluck, you become CC immune for a short duration. You can abuse this immunity when you know CC is coming, such as Ares ult or dodge E ult.
Dash, that might have been the smartest thing I've ever seen you do.
As you become better with this trick, you'll be able to do this on reaction, which means you'll be able to do this faster and against more abilities. For my tips, there aren't too many. Like I said, Sobek is a super simple character. His ability descriptions don't even span more than 3 sentences long. But what I can tell you is to make sure you're keeping your passive stacked in fights. To get a stack, all you need to do is hit someone, either with an ability or with an auto attack. This will give you protections and they add up. These procs pretty much equate to an extra item, especially late game, and you have about 6 seconds to refresh the cooldown on your stacks, so plenty of time. My next tip is understanding your ult. Use this to zone, peel, chase, or set up enemies for death. Sobek ult is nice because not only are you CC immune, but you get 120% your protections while you're in his ult, so you become tankier. It's really good to ult right after you pluck as well, because usually by the time your ult's over, your pluck is coming back up, allowing you to be a major influence in the fight. My last tip for you guys is to use the pirate skin. No, I'm just kidding, but in all seriousness, I tend to hit more abilities while using the pirate skin over any other skin, so take that as you will. Next, let's go over ability leveling. You want to start as 3 at level 1 because the damage is the same as his 2 and it heals you. From here, get your 1, which is your pluck. It'll serve as your main form of engage and escape. After that, get your 2, and finally at level 5, get your ult. From here, max your 3 first while locating points into his ult when you can. Again, the damage is comparable to your 2, but you get the added bonus of extra healing. After I max my 3, I typically max the 2, then his pluck. At this stage, you can max whatever you feel most comfortable with, but this is the order I like for the most effective damage. Next, let's take a look at some of Sobek's matchups and counters. Sobek is a very punishing character. He throws players out of position and into his teammates. So in most cases, Sobek is going to be a good pick. In fact, as of the making of this video, Sobek is an S tier support. He's very hard to kill and he's very punishing, but there are some characters he does really well into, and that's going to be healers and characters without leaps or dashes. Now what's kind of funny is just about every main healer in Smite doesn't have an escape. If you look at Afro, Hell, or even Yamoja, none of these characters have immediate escapes. Yes, Yamoja has a Riptide, but it takes her a bit to get into it. So when Sobek plucks these characters into his team, they can't immediately get away. On top of that, Sobek applies 40% reduced healing when he hits someone with his 3, hence why he's good into healers. On the other hand, Sobek does have his counters. Anyone with a major cripple such as Ares or Ardeo is going to be tough for Sobek to deal with because he relies so much off his pluck that preventing him from using that ability is going to nerf most of his impact. Although this can go either way. Remember, someone like Ares doesn't have an immediate escape, so if Sobek does pluck him, now Ares is in a scary position. Other characters that might be difficult for Sobek to deal with but don't directly counter him are Nox, Ganesh, and even Jingwei, since she can dash mid-air off his pluck. Next, let's go over some good items on Sobek. Sobek's whole playstyle is getting in there, engaging with his pluck and being an overall nuisance to the enemy team with his displacement. So I really like building items that fit that style. For example, Prophetic Cloak is very nice on him because you're going to need those mitigations late game. Also like to build Oni Hunter's Garb on him because it complements the Prophetic and his playstyle. Between Onis and Prophetic, you're already really tanky because you have 25% damage mitigation when you're in the middle of their team. Aside from those, I really like cooldown on them, so slapping on items like Eldritch Dagger, Mantle of Discord, Praetorwyn, or even damage items such as Chrono Suspended I feel are really nice on him. Remember, your pluck is both your engage and escape, so you want it coming up as quickly as possible. Lastly, let's go over laning and team play and conquest. Sobek's lane is pretty dominant, mostly due to his passive, sustain from his 3, and threat from his pluck. Sobek does a lot of damage partly because he has 4 damaging abilities, unlike someone like Geb or Ganesh who dedicate an entire ability for defense or peel. So with all those features, Sobek is a very dominant lane character, which means that you want to be aggressive with them. Make sure you're plucking either their support or ADC when you can. Don't be scared to walk into their wave to be disruptive. Again, you have healing and extra prots, so you should be fine. The only things you need to be wary of are their jungler and if their support is a good counter into you. But as for the jungler, that's nothing 2 wards at both choke points can't solve. Don't be afraid to invade either, whether you're just stalling for time or you actually steal their buffs, both are good. Lastly, when it comes to shield buff, as a support you should be picking up at the very least the first one because you're the one getting in there, and the shield buff doesn't just give you a shield, but you also get protections for the duration of it, so you're going to increase your survivability. As for team play, I already mentioned what you should be doing in fights, that is engaging with pluck and ulting trying to create space for your team. But you can also look to peel for your allies. See, the pluck has to be one of the best abilities in Smite, but it does have somewhat of a learning curve to it. If after you ult and you see your teammates getting gone on, it's a good idea to go back and help them out. And you can do this easily with Tail Whip. But with the pluck, I would not just pluck someone away from your allies, they might get really mad at you. It's up to you to analyze the situation and determine if they need that pluck for peel or if you should save it for a re-engage. My last tip for team fighting is just to make sure you have follow-up. Sobek's the setup, but he's not the main form of damage. Oftentimes than not, I just see people going in and Athena taunting or Sobek plucking where Casper the Ghost is their only follow-up. So you want to make sure you have that, and the best way of knowing that is using your map. It gives you all the positions of your teammates, so make sure you're looking at that as consistently as you can, especially in teamfights where there's a lot going on. After all, you don't want to pluck someone into your teammate that's already dealing with 2 other enemies. Alright everyone, so that's the guide. Sobek is a very simple character, but there are some difficult aspects to his kit. Mechanically, if you're hitting the pluck, I'd say you're already doing most of the work, but you do need to understand the other aspects of him that I mentioned to be very good with him. But in any case, that's going to be the guide. Thank y'all so much for watching, and until next time, see ya!